Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of MANN Cinema Reviews. It is your host, Peter Mann, and today I'm going to be reviewing the latest neo-noir crime thriller, The Little Things. The film stars an illustrious Academy Award-winning Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto. The film is set in 1990 in Los Angeles. We are introduced to the character Joe Deacon, a former LASD lead detective, now a Kern County Sheriff's deputy, in town for the night to pick up evidence. The person that took his former job title, new lead LASD detective Jimmy Baxter, played by Rami Malek, is on the case to catch a serial killer that is stalking women in the night. The film has these crime drama beats. It starts kind of fast and furious, and I really like the pacing in the beginning of this film. I thought that the choices of music, there is an opening scene with a female who is driving on a long stretch of dark highway, and you can totally sense the period. This is set in the early 90s. And so there are also little cues that are set up, little vignettes, little things that you pick up on where they really paid attention to the heydays of Los Angeles. You have billboards of films like Goodfellas. And it's really nice that there are these little attention to details where you pick up of the period piece in where this film is set in. And the three leads are Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto, and all of them bring something to the table. Again, this is a neo-noir crime thriller in the vein of the yesteryear films such as Sea of Love. You also have films in the 90s like LA Confidential and Seven. I would think that this film would like to be compared to the David Fincher thriller Seven, and it has similar elements, and I really paid attention to those. Again, I like the look and the beginning setup. I do think that this film is very strong in the beginning of the first act of the film, and really introducing these characters. We see Denzel Washington almost like a washed up detective, that took a backseat in his career and just wanted to lead a simpler life in Kern County, where there's not a lot of foot traffic as far as crime is concerned. At least in that time period. And he's coming back to his old stomping grounds. A lot of people take notice of him. A lot of people recognize him. He had an illustrious career. He had a stellar reputation to a certain extent. One of the last cases, the MO of the serial killer is very similar to Rami Malek's current case. He picks up on details that the killer leaves at the crime scenes. Things are very similar. We see these flashbacks with Denzel Washington, and you can really tell that this man really took his job serious. It consumed him, and I tend to like those crime thrillers where they have this detective that is just engaged and deep into his work. His or her work, because we do have films of female detectives, but again, in this film, it's just an aging cop really on the beat of his old stomping grounds, and some people are welcoming when he comes back to LA, and some are definitely not. He did have a illustrious reputation to a certain extent, and that was in his latter years in LA, and you could really sense that the job really broke him. But Rami Malek's character, Jimmy Baxter, sees something. he sees glimpses of the man that once was. That he comes and accompanies him at a crime scene where they find a young lady completely nude and posed in her apartment in a way where she's killed. It's post-mortem, but her body is moved. And again, Denzel kind of, through flashbacks, he picks up on certain things that are very similar to the last case that went unsolved. And he gives Rami Malek's character, Jimmy, cues and clues and things to pick up on him. He almost takes him under his wing unknowingly. I think this is where the film leads into the latter half, and we finally get to Jared Leto's character, which becomes a prime suspect in the latest case. And he plays a maintenance man that is in the area, that works in the area. He is a peculiar character named Albert Sparma. He would seem like he was once fit, but now is frail due to maybe substance abuse. He kind of lets himself go in the stomach region, and he kind of has a beer belly. And he looks really odd, almost scaly and slimy. He's just an odd character. You can tell that this guy is up to no good. This guy is trouble. He kind of has a repressed but threatening disposition to himself, and the cops take notice. Baxter and Deacon in particular, and again, this is where the film it's still hitting those familiar beats, those crime drama beats, but the film takes a sharp right turn in the latter half, and in the third act, it really, I won't give too much away, but it really becomes familiar of films that they used to make that they don't really make nowadays, and I brought up examples. Such as Sea of Love in the 80s with Al Pacino, set in late 80s, and I think this is a film that may feel like it should have been made in that time period in which it was set in. It feels modern. The cinematography, I'm not saying it looks grainy or it looks throwback, but the vibe of the movie is definitely throwback. It just feels dated. It feels like a script that maybe was in development and due to production setbacks, the screenplay was put in a drawer or locked away and not seen again for decades and decades. And someone decided to open up that drawer it was in and say, hey, you know what? I think we got something here, and let's get a director that let's maybe polish it up. And this film is written and directed by John Lee Hancock. I'm pulling up his filmography. My Dog Skip, that was a family favorite back in the days. But again, kind of just pedestrian. Just kind of. This is a director that likes to play it safe. Most recently, I never saw Saving Mr. Banks, but I think he directed that one as well. I liked The Founder, and that was about Ray Kroc, the founder of the McDonald's franchise. And I really thought that was such a under-the-radar film. I don't think it was marketed too well, and I really do think that it missed the mark of gaining notoriety, accolades, definitely on Michael Keaton's part. I think that was the last John Lee Hancock film that I took notice, and it wasn't the perfect film either, but I really liked the style of it, and I think John Lee Hancock really knows how to pay attention to the period in which he's making the film. I'll give him that. The trailer really sells it on something that's similar to Seven, but nowhere near the illustrious and thrilling and engrossing Seven. This is kind of the by the numbers crime thriller, And I think the only thing that I can recommend, and I was invested in, is Jared Leto's character Albert. He just plays a very disturbed man that is he seems like an MO of a serial killer. He knows way too much about serial killers, and he studies them religiously, to the fact that he has motives of being a serial killer. But the film sells him on being the prime suspect, and our guys, Denzel and Rami Malek, they really take to him, and they pay attention to him. And I think that the film's first half is far superior than the latter half, and the latter half comes to a head and really is disappointing. I think that the ending, though kind of poetically wrapped up, it feels like a cheap shot to the audience. It feels like it wasn't what it was intended to be. It wasn't what was promised. Definitely by the stellar trailer. I think that the trailer is riveting. I think it promises something very lethal, very dangerous, very concealing of something very sinister. And this film just goes by the numbers. It's nothing thrilling. It's kind of boring, and by the end, the conclusion is just not the sum of its parts. So the three leads, I don't blame them. I think they were given the material and worked with their best abilities of presenting decent performances, especially on Jared Leto's part. And Leto, has gotten backlash for his portrayal of the Joker. But you got to remember that he was great in Dallas Buyers Club, and definitely in Blade Runner 2049. Don't count out Jared Leto too quick. And I think he is great in this film. I loved his character in this film. The three leads aren't the problem. I think the pacing of the film is the problem. I think the screenplay really needed some work, and it's definitely nowhere near its contemporaries. So with that, I'm going to have to rate this film, The Little Things, a 2.5 out of 5 possible stars. I really think that it's nowhere near what's promised, and that's unfortunate, because I really think that this film could have been above and beyond, something where we can get a contemporary counterpart of David Fincher's Seven. It's kind of the lower tier noir films. Not to put Brian De Palma down or throw him under the bus, but I definitely felt like viewing this was like viewing The Black Dahlia, and that was a film that I was looking forward to when it was coming out. And I remember that the trailer was phenomenal, and very much like this trailer was, phenomenal. You get a trailer that comes around, and it feels like the film is going to be, this great, thrilling, sleek noir, dark crime thriller. But the mystery is definitely subpar at best. This is Peter Mann at MANN Cinema Reviews. Thanks for showing up, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you on the next one.
You're not exactly a department favorite. Things probably changed a lot since you left.
You still got to catch him, right?
Yeah.
Not that much has changed then, right?
I can assure you all, we are taking a 24/7 all-hands-on-deck approach to these cases.
Guy's a shark. If he stops, he dies. He likes to drive. Probably has a decent car, maybe 2, high mileage.
You must really like my car.
I do. How's the trunk space?